Well, first of all, Miss Renee and Big John, appreciate you giving me time. And obviously, this passion to help bring awareness to mental health, I know it started with the Clean Mountain Air shirts, and that was a big passion for you both, but it seemed like it was even before that, a passion to help. Could you guys tell me when you were thinking about, okay, we need to bring awareness to this?
Honestly, I think for me, Jermaine, and it's great to see you, of course, it was the trigger, and I hate to use that word, but really that's what it was when my dad passed away in September of 2019. And I think that forced me to look internally a lot more than maybe I had while I was ascending through broadcasting and in sports, and you had so much distraction and excitement and events and things that could take away from that. And it really made me introspective to what not only I was dealing with or had dealt with my entire life, but what he had, what my mom had, what Renee is, what a lot of people are, including a lot of the student athletes at Virginia Tech. And it wasn't this light bulb that went on and it was all of a sudden we need to do this. It was just our way of starting to look at things a little bit differently. And then the pandemic hits, and that, as we've seen, has had so much damage inflicted on our society as a whole, not just in the United States, but globally. And one thing led to another, and Clean Mountain Air, I think, was really the launching pad for what we realized could be possible.
And Renee, I got to ask you, how has mental health impacted you personally, and how, this project has rocked and rolled?
I gotta say, the whole thing has just been incredible and kind of overwhelming. When we started selling the shirts, I was really surprised by the reactions that we got, and it just started so many conversations with people that we just didn't expect. Like, we thought people were buying the shirts just because they liked Jon's touchdown call or because of Virginia Tech, and it really just started conversations that we didn't expect from people we knew, from friends, saying, hey, I've really struggled with this for a while, and kind of telling their stories. So it's really opened it up, and it's made us kind of share more of our stories. And when you do that, it a lot of times invites other people to share their stories. And it's been pretty rewarding hearing that, and just people can hide behind certain things, and we're kind of seeing a different layer to people. Like, you can put on a brave face, but you don't know what people are going through, when they go home, when they're alone, when they're by themselves. So it's been really eye-opening and pretty rewarding.
And I'm sure, obviously, you both making the decision for you to leave Virginia Tech to even grow this part of it. Talk about that type of conversation you guys had about, okay, this is bigger than me. Than you, Jon, being at Virginia Tech. You really want to take this and go to another level. Just talk about maybe the conversation you both had, because obviously when you make a decision you made, that is a joint decision to really go deeper into your passion of helping bring mental health awareness.
Well, honestly, one of the big things for me was some of the conversations I had with student athletes at Virginia Tech. I'm talking big, huge, tough football players down to some of our female student athletes who you would think, looking at them, had everything, by the tail, and opportunities to take their careers beyond their time at Virginia Tech, and some of the things that they were dealing with and the pressures that had honestly become so much more magnified in the last few years. It's like everything in our society right now, it's breakneck. And unfortunately, in terms of that pace, when it comes to mental health, there's just no time to wait. And the conversations that Renee and I had, so many people, I think, get bogged down and eventually completely stalled by what we call first step paralysis, where we had no idea where we wanted to start, and the problem seems so vast. And even the Clean Mountain Air initiative, at first we were just donating to a national organization, and we weren't able to see this is actually making an impact, because it wasn't, quite frankly. It was well intentioned, but the amount that we were donating wasn't enough. But when we localized it to benefit the student athletes at Virginia Tech, then we could really start to see it and realize that that was the avenue in which to go. And it's not necessarily directly Virginia Tech anymore, but it is directly to this community here in Richmond, which is a massive Virginia Tech city and alumni base, and so it still feels like it's localized to us, and we can actually go into the schools now. And what we're doing now is refining our approach, and what we're hoping to create, we're just two people. Eventually our society will grow in terms of its staff, ideally, but what we want to create is the model, so people that are stuck with their own first step paralysis can say, this worked there, let's fine tune it, let's tweak it, they made these mistakes, and go forward. So we've made a ton of mistakes already, but we've also had a lot of successes already, which keeps you going.
And Renee, add more to that?
It certainly, we had a lot of conversations about it, definitely. And even going back to when COVID started, and we're both, I think everyone was depressed and everybody was scared. I think that's pretty safe to say at the start of it. And when Jon was furloughed by his company, and we had a lot of free time to think and what can we do to help ourselves? What can we do to help others who are probably experiencing similar things that we are? So just, the grind of the season and seeing the success of the Clean Mountain Air, and like I mentioned, how it started so many conversations with people we didn't expect, we decided maybe it's time to go all in. When, like I said, when he got furloughed, it kind of reminds you that, work is work. And what's really important in life is, family, friends, health, wellness. So with kind of that focus being recentered for us, I'd say, it made the decision to go all in. We scratched the surface with the Clean Mountain Hour shirts, and then we kind of got too into work in the season. So if we put all of our, work and ambition into this, what more can we do? And I just like to think that if we help one kid, prevent one kid from self-harm, suicide, whatever, it's worth it. So I feel like there's no lose here, because any impact we make is gonna matter.
And really, when you look at it, when you guys went full all in on it, we're pushing our chips into the center this year. Talk about the response, because now we have a name now. I mean, Clean Mountain Air, it's still around, but we're the Laser's Ladybug Society, which is a cool and neat name. Talk about just some of the response you've gotten from it, from not only throughout the state, but even maybe the Richmond area and just in general.
Yeah, one of the reasons that we named it Laser's Ladybug Society is, of course, because it's alliterative, but also it has significance in her family and some of the things she used to do with her young nieces in terms of encouraging them and their growth. They're still very young. And also some of the negative impacts in my own family in terms of some of our younger family members. And we wanted it to be more broad, right? Because obviously we need and want support from Virginia Tech. And Hokies everywhere, but we also need it to be broad where anyone can relate. And we talk about that a lot in Richmond in terms of this region. We need the Rams, we need the Spiders, and I can't say the other one, but we need you too up the road here about an hour, because some things are bigger than athletics and those rivalries and those things. And what we've been able to create, I'm wearing this shirt that it says Ladybug Lover on the back. And, we wanted something for men and also for people that identify that way, and kids and everything else. So we've been able to broaden our approach in terms of what we want it to represent beyond something that was very individualistic, which was Clean Mountain Air. And we've seen the response is incredible. We were out at a golf event a couple of days ago, and we had the shirts out at a table, and the people coming up and loving it and identifying with it. And what we ultimately hope that it is kind of a uniform that says we are supportive of ending the stigma of mental health and the conversation. So when you see someone wearing one of these shirts, or you see the ladybug, you go, they're an ally, they're a supporter.
Yeah. And Renee, seems like, especially nowadays with mental health, it just seems like it's really the time to bring more attention. It seems like really over the last couple of years, not only athletics, but just in general, it seems like the time has come for an organization like Laser's Ladybug Society.
Yeah, we think so. And we also want people to understand that it's a bigger umbrella than maybe we realized before. It's not just about teenage suicide and self-harm and violence, which is certainly a part of it, but also these issues have been around for a while, but how has it been manifesting in years past? Someone turns to alcohol, they turn to drug use, they turn to, harmful activities in different ways. So we're really just trying to address all of that. And none of this is new. Obviously, you can say social media has been a problem and cell phones have been a problem, and all that is true. But this isn't a new thing we're attacking or approaching. Like, a lot of these issues have been there, like I said, but I think now it's getting maybe the publicity it hasn't before. So we're really kind of bringing it to the center of attention to start the work from there.
Well, the numbers from 2009 to 2019 are staggering. I was actually just going back over some of those, the exponential growth in a negative way of what our youth is dealing with continues to get worse and worse. And we see that manifesting as they get older and older into some of the societal problems that we're having, including gun violence, which is honestly not always the instigator of that being mental health, but the vast majority is. And things that if they had been addressed in that person's childhood, maybe not necessarily prevented the pain that they were feeling, but prevented them from going to such a dramatic place of harming elders, including themselves in a lot of those cases. And from 2019 to 2022, now accelerate that 10-year process and magnify it again tenfold because of the pandemic and social media. It can be a great tool for promotion and all the ways that we use it, but quite frankly, it is poison in terms of mental health. So as that line, as we like to say, is growing in a negative fashion, here comes the education and the budget and the funding and all the things that are necessary, and that line is rising as well as the conversation rises, but not congruently with that line. So we need a heck of a lot more ladybug societies to make those two run a little more parallel in terms of the problem is growing, but so is our recognition and our funding.
So what, I know you guys have done some events, but what type of events that you guys have done to kind of bring awareness? I know I heard pickleball was one of them, but what are some of the other events, pickleball and other things?
Well, honestly, the biggest thing that we want to do is, we have the shirts and we have multiple ways, of course, to raise funds, restaurant buybacks, apparel, just straight out donations and sponsorship. But what we really want to be known for is fun. We want to have people come out because here's the thing, like these are serious topics and conversations that people are dealing with, but they're not all encompassing. And it doesn't mean that just because you struggle at times, you can't come out and have fun with your community. And that's what we really want. Pickleball is the first event that we're having. It's a phenomenal game. We've become addicted to it. We play almost every day here in Richmond. It's the fastest growing sport in the country. But we'll follow that up with kickball in a couple of months. And what we want that to be is just teams of 10, 12 friends, people, could be your office, could be your fraternity, sorority, youth team, whatever the case may be, all inclusive to come out. And of course, the ultimate goal is to raise money and funding, which we're funneling straight back to the schools, but we want people to have a great time and put aside their mental health struggles for the couple days that those events are going. And ultimately, we hope to just continuously do that over and over and over and over again, where the identity to those events is already something that people know before they even register.
Talk a little bit about the support, and Renee, you can start off just from y'all's family on this, because this is like I said, it has impacted you guys personally, but just talk about the support. You guys gotten from family, friends, colleagues, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, they've been great. Our family has been so supportive, and like his sister sponsoring our pickleball tournament t-shirts. My dad is the treasurer for our board. Yeah, everyone's been all in. We couldn't do this without our family and our friends. So they're the ones. We've got friends who are helping us, recruit players for our pickleball tournament, helping go out and spread the word, because that's what we're doing right now, just kind of spreading the word and letting people know who we are and what we're trying to do. So yeah, our families have been great. Our friends in this area have been great. We've got friends coming in from Blacksburg, from Philadelphia, coming down to help with our event. So we couldn't do it without them.
When's the pickleball tournament?
A week from today, next weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
So
June 11th
where's
to
that going
12th.
to be at?
It's about 20 minutes from here down in Chesterfield. It's a little south. There's a big facility down there. But to your previous question, yeah, we owe my mom quite a bit of money. But no, they've been phenomenally supportive on both sides. Her family and her parents have been amazing. Our website's being built by our sister-in-law, who's her brother's wife. The shirts for the first tournament, my sister's real estate company sponsored those. She's coming down with her kids for the tournament. It's been fantastic. And one of the big reasons why we decided to launch here in Richmond is because for us, family is immediate, but it's also a lot of people like yourself that we've worked with. Our largest, we call him our angel donor at this point, is a huge tech booster. That was one of the original reasons why I ever even considered becoming the voice of the Hokies, or was considered. He funded these t-shirts, in terms of he wanted to come and make that initial impact. He's also a part owner of the Flying Squirrels, so you'll see those mascots and all the people that we have impacted in a professional way over the years. And that's not just me, that's Renee too. She worked for the Flying Squirrels as well. That's VCU, that's U of R, and really using that athletic family, honestly, to broaden what we can do in terms of reach.
I tell you, it is a special thing, and it's kind of neat how you're using fun to bring this awareness, because it is, especially in light of, like you said, I mean, young people and athletes and all that, and it's kind of like there's this stigma of, okay, you're kind of weak if you have, mental health issues, but it is okay not to be okay, and I think that's really been the big push, and organizations like you guys are doing are really helping with that.
Well, I think what's been gratifying too is it's a combination of our abilities that have been gained through athletics, and now they work in this nonprofit space, because when you're running events, you need so many different things. You need graphic design in order to make flyers and brochures and signage, and I have those skills because they made me learn them in minor league baseball, and in some degree at Virginia Tech as well. Obviously, you need to promote, and you need to do things like this and have the ability to speak, and of course, broadcasting and her television background all lend themselves to that. And then you need to talk to people, you need to go to schools, you need to tell your story, you need to write, because you have to have the literature and the reason and the why and all those things behind. So it's been this collection of all the experiences over the last couple of decades, and then of course our marriage, that have led us to this point where we can hit the ground running a lot faster than other places, because we don't have to outsource hardly anything. In terms of when we have the time, we can do it ourselves, which allows us to move a lot more nimbly than some others.
This might sound like a crazy question. I've already asked it, but if I have, my apologies. Want to make sure I have it. But from both you guys' perspective, when was the first time in your family you noticed something about mental health? Like, when was that moment? And it was probably, I'm sure, for you guys with that.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
All right, I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Give her some time.
For me, it's been an omnipresent factor since I was a little kid. I have memories of anxiety that I think would be considered abnormal for a 4 or 5 year old, in terms of worrying about the logistics of getting to kindergarten, even though it wasn't up to me. Like, my parents were going to take me and walk me in. But, I felt that. I've always struggled with low-grade depression, which is not the crippling type of depression where you close the blinds in your apartment or house and stay there and can't go. I could always work through it. I could always, function and hide that. But there are times where you look at that negatively. That is, of course, an impact of my family. My dad has some of those same issues. There's an abuse history in our family. And the fact that both of my parents, my dad before he passed and my mom still, are well-known psychologists, our conversations when we were kids were quite a bit different than some of the ones my friends were having. As I know now, they were a lot more advanced and evolved. This was 30 years ago, or even beyond that. At this point, we were having conversations that right now seem somewhat novel in terms of parents and their kids. So it made you hyper aware, and sometimes when you're hyper aware, that can be a great thing, but it can also be the opposite of ignorance is bliss, where you realize what's going on. So for me, it's essentially been there in a positive and a negative at times way pretty much my entire life.
I'd say I benefit more from hindsight and discussions with Jon about mental health as we've gotten married, and been able to kind of look back on my life and kind of understand how it played out. I'd say the biggest impact for me is when in my early 20s I was in an abusive relationship for about 2 years, and when that relationship finally ended, I wasn't in a good place. I'm pretty depressed and just not really functioning well. And my mother encouraged me to get into counseling. So I finally got into counseling for the first time in my life at age 24, maybe. And I really enjoyed it and, having the sessions, but then I had to stop just because it was too expensive. It was like $160 for an hour in the middle of the day. I couldn't get out of work. I couldn't afford it. Insurance didn't cover it pretty much at all. So after a whopping 4 sessions, I wasn't that much healed. I stopped going to counseling, and I can kind of just see how that's impacted the rest of my life. You know, I just started like partying more and hanging out with my friends, and you know, probably not the healthiest treatments or outlets, you know, when you're trying to do your own self-care. And I could kind of just look back and see how that's impacted me and changed me, and how different maybe my life would have been if I had healthier ways of coping, you know, to dealing with my heartbreak and my stress and all that. So that's why, you know, our motto is, what are the roots, not the leaves? So maybe if I had something better in place, or if it was cheaper and easier to get, you know, that counseling, you know.
She stole my tagline. That's my go-to. I wasn't there yet.
Yeah, I'm sure better.
But the big thing, one of the big things we want people to understand is we're not preaching to you. We haven't figured this thing out in terms of our own mental health.
I was going to say, we're not counselors, we're not medical professionals.
And there's no, you know, there's no end when it comes to that. Like, those will be issues that I will have to manage for my entire life. Do we do that in the most healthy way all the time? Absolutely not. So we're not sitting here saying, do this because we figured it out. We haven't. But incremental progress is a huge thing. You don't know this because, you know, she spoke about it very eloquently and very quickly there. That's the first time she's ever publicly acknowledged that abusive relationship. I know about it, but that's a huge thing. So every day, things like that in our own journey and what we're hoping, because the greatest impact is the vulnerability to talk about what you go through.
And the thing is, something, Renee, you brought up, which is very interesting. A lot of businesses with insurance, you know, we always talk about medical insurance.
Right.
And now I think some more companies are starting to get into the fact, hey, we need to invest in mental health insurance in that regard. But a lot of businesses probably, you know, let's say if you know, they do have a setup, some now with counselors, you can talk to someone and we'll pick up the tab. But even before that, even businesses didn't look upon mental health and how treat people to help get people get treatment.
And that's exactly what I was talking about before. That's part of the line that's got to match up in terms of the recognition. And you're seeing that. More companies are way more progressive in terms of trying to help their employees and their partners and everybody else manage their mental health. But are we anywhere close to being where we need to be with that? Absolutely not. You know, I knew hundreds of baseball players that I worked with over my time in minor league baseball, one of which happened to recently go to rehab. And I was talking about it with him the other day. He had to pay $6,700 out of pocket, and that's with insurance picking up 80%. So if you do the math, it's about $50,000. Well, most of us don't have that sitting around, and that can again lead to paralysis in your own mental health, wellness, and treatment. And it's terrifying. And it is, oftentimes we have a shortage of therapists right now in this country, and even though you might want to get in to see one, you can't. It's not their fault. They're working 14 hours a day and doing the best that they can. So there's so many places and avenues to get to those roots, educating therapists, educating the youth so they become therapists. This is not a short play, which is one of the reasons why you have to go all in, because if you just throw a little money at it for a year or two and then get back to what it is that you're doing, that impact will fade very quickly.
So is there anything else that I missed? Anything else you want to add and let anybody know about your events or anything like that?
The only thing I would just add, and I don't even know how to word this.
No, it's okay.
Let you fix it in editing. Yeah. I like to also think of this as an investment in our youth. You know, this isn't a quick fix. We don't expect, you know, one session or to solve. We're not naive enough to think that we're going to immediately end all suicide attempts by teenagers or anything along those lines. But this is an investment. This is going to be long term. This is something like we have to put the work in, the time in, the resources into. So that's what we're in this for. It's not a quick fix. It's not solving anything overnight. So this is something that we're going to be working on the way we work on ourselves daily. Like, this is something we have to keep working on and not throw one event and be done with it.
Yeah, I had a couple of things. I don't like sounding like an alarmist, but quite frankly, it's alarming. Some of the things that we've learned from the people that are on the front lines, for lack of a better term, right there dealing with the youth in schools or wherever that may be in their lives. Just as the one stat that just terrifies me is that since 2019, during the pandemic, the number of students who reached out for help in a public way tripled. So it's staggering, and that's not going to revert because we think the pandemic has ceased. That damage is done. So going forward, point being, get involved. And the other part for us is I've never been more high profile than I was when I was at Virginia Tech. This doesn't work for us here without Hokies. So although we're not in Blacksburg, we still need you.
Good stuff. So again, the pickleball tournament starts next Saturday?
Yeah.
And it's going to be over at the, is it the River City?
No, it's Chesterfield Technical Center at Hull Street. They've got 12 pickleball courts. As we're filming this, we have about 130 players, and we've still got room for a few more if this airs before then.
There you go. So Chesterfield Technical
Center at Hull Street.
At Hull Street.
Yeah.
And then, if somebody wanted to get involved, how would they get a hold of y'all?
Yeah, pickleballtournaments.com, keyword Ladybug. Our tournament will pop right up. You can register online right there and come out. And even if you don't want to play or you've never played pickleball, come on down. We got free beer all weekend. We're going to have Renee's mom making baked goods. She's phenomenal at that. It really is a grassroots approach. Yeah. My mom's going to be doing something in terms of volunteer. We got DJs. We've got bounce houses. We've got
food trucks,
Freezy Pops. We've got ice cream trucks.
It's going to be a spectacle.
We want it. That's what I'm saying. We want it to be more like a carnival. Some of the serious pickleball players probably won't like that, but hey, they already paid.
That's some good stuff. I tell you what, I love you both, and congratulations on this. And like I said, we're here to help. So whatever we can do, just let us know. Congratulations on the Lasers Ladybug Society. I love saying that. That's pretty cool. It's fun to say.
Ladybugs.
Yeah, you can't beat anything with ladybugs. Actually, you shouldn't step on. That's bad luck. So you should save all the ladybugs.
Yeah.
Because if something happens,
you get a loveliness when you save all of them. They're a loveliness.
That's one of the big reasons why we named it that too. Is it's a ladybug symbol of hope, luck, grace, optimism, essentially just positivity, and that's what people need, hope more than any of those.
How long did it take y'all to come up with the name?
We were just hilarious. So we left Blacksburg and we called it our Bonnie and Clyde tour. We were just driving around visiting family and didn't really have an agenda. I don't know. I think we were in Georgia somewhere, honestly. We're going to see her brother, and I was just like, what do you think about Lasers Ladybug Society? And she, I think, initially thought it was stupid, quite frankly.
I thought it was silly. I didn't know people would get into it.
And then we talked it out, and that's what I'm saying. Like I texted a graphic design friend, marketing professional here in Richmond that I used to work with before Virginia Tech, and I was like, what do you think? Can you mock up a logo? He did it the next day. I think I made one. I said, make the ladybug look less mean. He put that back, and then bang, we used that, and there we went. We didn't really. It was honestly, I think it was our first name idea. I don't think we discarded any. So
that's pretty cool though, because it was like, it's a cool name, but it's simple. It's not like it's something that's It's a simple name, really, but it's cool. It's cool, but simple. It's clean. The logo's clean.
Well, eventually
you get some that are just off the grid, but that's pretty cool.
Well, I think eventually what we want to do is just the ladybug become a national symbol of like mental health awareness. You know how with autism, the puzzle piece, all you have to do is see that, and okay, they support autism. So we're obviously nowhere close to that at the moment, but we feel as though it is silly. It certainly has the ability to catch on in a way where at some point you can just take the Lasers Ladybugs part of it off of it. It doesn't even matter that it's us or it has our name on it, and it's just the ladybug, and people already know, okay, they support the cause.
Speak it to existence.
Right.
I like it.
I appreciate you both giving me time today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming over. This is awesome. I got to get a picture with you and me. I got to send to Mikey.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we can do that.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, could y'all sit back down real quick? I want to get a shot y'all together.